Good evening. Tonight, there is nothing important waiting here. This is not a lesson, not a story you need to follow, and not something that requires effort. It is simply a quiet science narration, moving slowly at a pace that does not change suddenly. You do not need to focus or listen closely. If the sound stays near you, that is enough, and if it fades into the background, that is also enough. There is no right way to be here. You may already feel tired, or you may still feel alert. Either way, nothing needs to change. Tonight's story is about the night sky, not in a way that explains things clearly or asks for attention, but as a soft description of what science understands, shared slowly and without urgency. You do not need to stay awake for it. If your eyes are open, they can remain open. And if they close, they can close naturally, without effort. There will be no moment you need to catch, and no key idea to remember. The words arrive gently, and leave just as gently, whether you notice them or not. This is a calm space, a quiet pace, a place where nothing is expected of you. As the narration carries on, you may begin to notice that there is less to do and less to hold, and that is already enough for the night to begin. Nothing needs to be adjusted, nothing needs to be prepared, and nothing needs to be done correctly. You may notice your breathing, or you may not. Either way is fine. There is no rhythm to follow, no pattern to match, and no instruction hidden in the words. Breathing is already happening quietly on its own. If the breath feels slow, it can stay slow. If it feels shallow, it does not need to deepen. And if it changes from one moment to the next, that is simply what breathing does. Nothing here needs correction. The words continue at a steady pace, never hurrying and never building toward anything. This steadiness allows the mind to stop checking what comes next. You do not need to listen carefully or keep track of sentences. If you notice yourself trying to follow the meaning, that effort can soften and fade away. The sound can remain nearby, like a presence in the room, not close and not far, simply present. Thoughts may appear, some short and some long, and they do not need to be pushed away or held onto. They can come and go without interruption. Your body already knows how to settle at night. It has done this many times before, without instruction and without effort. Muscles may begin to feel heavier, or they may simply feel still, and both are signs of rest beginning. There is no need to check your body or adjust anything, because whatever you feel right now is already acceptable. The sound remains the same, the pauses stay gentle, and nothing becomes louder or faster. Time continues to move forward slowly, without asking for attention. For now, everything can remain exactly as it is. Breathing continues, the sound continues, and the night quietly holds both. While the sound carries on in the same gentle way, the mind does not need to move anywhere new and can remain open without holding on to anything in particular. In this quiet state, the idea of the night sky can appear naturally, without effort. For as long as humans have been awake at night, there has been darkness, and within that darkness, small points of light. They do not arrive suddenly or demand attention. They are simply there. These small lights do not rush across the sky. They do not flicker or change from moment to moment, and they remain steady, quiet, and distant. Long before there were explanations, names, or stories about them, people noticed the same thing: darkness above and scattered light within it. Today, science understands that many of these points of light are stars, not symbols, not messages, and not anything meant to be interpreted, but simply sources of light that exist very far away. You do not need to picture how far away they are, and you do not need to imagine distances or sizes, because those details are not important here. What matters is that the light we see from a star does not reach us instantly. It travels quietly for a long time before arriving. Sometimes, the light reaching Earth tonight began its journey long before this evening began, long before this room felt quiet, and long before this moment. Because of that distance, stars appear calm. They do not change quickly. They do not respond to what happens below, and they simply continue shining at the same slow pace, night after night. You do not need to stay with this idea or hold it clearly. It can remain in the background, like the light itself, distant, steady, and unhurried. The sound remains unchanged, the pace stays slow, and the night sky, as science understands it today, continues to hold light that has been traveling quietly for a very long time, arriving without urgency and without asking for attention. With the idea of distant light resting quietly in the background, science offers a calm way to understand what stars are. There is no need to think of them as points. They only appear small because they are far away. A star is a very large body made mostly of hot gas. This does not need to be pictured clearly, and you do not need to imagine size, weight, or structure. It is enough to know that a star is not solid like a rock and not delicate like a flame, but something vast, held together over long periods of time. Deep inside a star, matter exists under great pressure, and in those conditions, natural processes release energy. This energy does not escape suddenly. It moves outward slowly, layer by layer, until some of it becomes light. That light then begins a long journey through space, quiet and unhurried. Our own sun is also a star. It feels familiar because it is close, but in its nature, it is not different from other stars. It shines steadily, not by burning like fire, but through ongoing processes deep within it. You do not need to remember how those processes work. Knowing that they are steady is enough. From Earth, stars can appear different from one another. Some seem warmer in color, others cooler. Some appear brighter and others softer. These differences relate to how stars release energy and how their light travels to us. But the night sky does not require that you keep track of these details. Most nights, stars appear the same way they always have: small, distant, and unchanging. Science often describes stars as systems held in balance, not perfectly still, but stable. They do not change suddenly, they do not rush, and they continue quietly, moment after moment. You do not need to follow this explanation closely. It can remain in the background, like the light itself, distant and steady. The sound continues at the same gentle pace, nothing becoming more intense and nothing becoming faster. And the night sky, as science understands it today, remains wide, dark, and filled with light that arrives patiently, without urgency, night after night. With this gentle understanding of stars, attention no longer needs to stay with explanation and can rest instead on the feeling of the night. At night, there is often less movement, fewer changes, and fewer signals asking for attention. The light is softer, the edges of things are less sharp, and sounds, if they are present at all, tend to travel more slowly. Above, the points of light remain where they are. They do not hurry or approach. They simply remain quietly in place. Many people notice that the night sky feels spacious, open and uncrowded, with nothing in it that needs to be followed from one moment to the next. The light from stars is distant and steady. It does not flash or change quickly. And because of this, the sky at night is often described as calm. Not silent, but calm. This calm is not something the stars actively create. It is simply how the scene is often experienced when there is darkness, distance, and very little motion. The mind does not have much to track, and when there is less to track, the effort of paying attention can begin to soften. Thoughts may slow down or become less defined, appearing and then fading without needing to connect to anything else. You may notice parts of your body becoming heavier, the jaw loosening, or the shoulders settling. If you notice this, there's no need to adjust it. And if you do not notice it at all, that is also fine. The body does not need to be checked or corrected. It already knows how to respond to quiet scenes. The night sky remains wide, the lights remain small, and between them there is space. And in that space, nothing is happening all at once. The sound of this story continues in the same way, with steady words and gentle pauses. There is no need to hold on to these descriptions. They can pass through quietly, like distant light, seen without effort and then left behind. As the night sky remains mostly unchanged, there are moments when something brief passes through it. Not often and not for long. Most of the time, nothing moves quickly above. The darkness stays wide, the points of light remain still, and then, quietly, for just a moment, something appears. A thin line of light crosses a small part of the sky and then fades. It does not interrupt the night or change the rhythm. It arrives and leaves without staying long enough to become part of the scene. These moments are easy to miss. If you are not looking, they pass unnoticed. And if you do notice one, it is usually not because it is bright, but because it is brief. The sky does not respond, the stars do not move, and the darkness returns to exactly how it was before. Science understands that the space around Earth is usually calm, but not completely empty. And most of the time, this makes no visible difference at all. Then, occasionally, there is a short movement, so brief that it leaves no trace behind. There is no need to stay with this idea, and it does not ask to be followed. It can pass through the mind in the same way it passes through the sky, briefly present and then gone. The sound remains steady. Nothing becomes faster, and nothing becomes sharper. The night continues in the same quiet way, mostly still, with only the rarest hint of movement passing through. In science, those brief lines of light have a simple name. They are called meteors. A meteor is not a star and not a distant source of light shining on its own. It begins as something much smaller, often a tiny piece of rock or a grain of dust moving quietly through space, so small that it would be easy to overlook if it were nearby. These small pieces spend a long time traveling without being noticed at all. When one of them reaches Earth, it meets the atmosphere high above the ground. As it moves through the air, it begins to interact with the molecules around it, the air resisting its motion and compressing in front of it. For a very short time, this interaction causes intense heating, Not because the object is large, and not because it burns like a flame, but because of motion and contact with the air itself. What we see from the ground is not the object as it was in space, but the light created during that brief passage, a moment of brightness, and then nothing. Most meteors do not continue beyond this. They slow down, break apart, and fade away high above the surface. This happens quietly, with no sound, no impact, and no lasting mark. Because these pieces are so small and the atmosphere is so wide, this process is gentle and safe. Meteors are not rare. They enter the atmosphere regularly, but most of them are never seen. They pass through during the day when clouds are present, or when the sky is simply too bright. Only a few become visible at night, when conditions are calm and the darkness is deep. There is nothing unusual about their presence. They are simply part of the space around Earth, small travelers passing through the air for a moment and then gone. You do not need to picture their path or imagine speed or direction. It is enough to know that these brief lights are small, temporary, and quickly forgotten by the night itself. The sky does not change because of them. The stillness remains, and the sound continues at the same gentle pace, slow, even, and unchanged. At certain times, the night sky can seem slightly less still than usual. Not suddenly and not all at once, but with just a little more movement spread gently across the night. Science explains that Earth moves through space along a steady path, a motion that does not change quickly and follows the same quiet rhythm night after night. Along that path, there are regions where many small particles remain. These particles are not new, they have been there for a long time. As Earth continues its motion, some of these tiny pieces meet the atmosphere one at a time, and each one behaves in the same quiet way, a brief glow, a short passage, and then darkness again. When several of these moments occur during a single night, they may be noticed together, and science refers to this as a meteor shower. Despite the name, there is nothing heavy or overwhelming about it. The sky does not fill with light or become bright or busy. Most of the time, there is still far more darkness than motion, and long stretches of stillness remain. Minutes can pass with nothing happening at all, and then, quietly, one small line of light appears and fades. This pattern does not repeat quickly or demand attention. It is spread out slowly over time. Science understands this as part of Earth's regular movement through space, predictable, gentle, and small in scale. Nothing is disturbed by it. The stars remain where they are. The darkness stays wide, and the night does not change its character. And as these ideas pass by, there is no need to stay with them or remember them. They can drift through the mind in the same way they pass through the sky, briefly present and then gone. The sound continues at the same pace, nothing becoming brighter and nothing becoming faster. The night returns again and again to what it mostly is: quiet, wide, and unchanged. By now, there is nothing new here, and everything in this story has already been introduced. The night sky remains mostly still, darkness wide and steady, with small points of light staying where they are. Stars are distant. They do not hurry and they do not change quickly, and their light arrives slowly after traveling quietly for a long time. Meteors are different. They are small and brief, passing through and then disappearing. Most of the time, nothing happens at all. The sky stays dark, the space between the lights remains wide and empty, and even when a meteor appears, it does not stay or interrupt the night. It passes, and the stillness returns. Stars continue shining in the same quiet way. Meteors continue passing through, mostly unseen. and the night remains what it has been all along, quiet, unhurried, and unchanged. There is no need to think about this anymore, and the ideas do not need attention now. They can soften, blur, and drift. The sound does not explain. It repeats. Words arrive and then leave without needing to connect. Stars far away, light slow, meteors brief, darkness lasting. These words do not need to be understood. They can become shapes of sound, rhythm, and space. If thoughts appear, they do not need to finish. They can fade halfway through and disappear. The night sky does not react or respond. It simply remains wide, still, and quiet. The same patterns return again and again. Distant light, open darkness, large space, a brief line of light, and then nothing, as stillness returns. The mind does not need to hold meaning, and can rest between words, between pauses, and between thoughts. Stars remain distant. Their light remains steady. Meteors remain brief, and the night remains unchanged. Nothing new is added, and nothing needs to be remembered. Only this slow rhythm of sound, silence, and time passing gently. You do not need to stay with the words or follow the story. And again, and with each repetition, there is less clarity and less effort. Words become quieter, pauses become longer, and the space between thoughts grows wider. The night sky does not change, the sound does not change, and there is nothing here that needs to be finished. The sound continues, but there is less to say now. Words arrive more slowly, and they do not need to form complete ideas. They can simply appear, rest, and fade. Stars remain far away. Light continues moving slowly, and the night sky stays unchanged. There is no movement that needs to be followed, and no sequence that needs to be remembered. Thoughts can loosen and soften without finishing. Pauses become longer. The space between words widens, and there is sound, then silence, and then more silence. Stars remain distant. Meteors remain brief as they pass through, and most of the sky stays still, with darkness wide and steady. You do not need to listen closely now. The sound can remain somewhere in the background, near enough to be heard, but not close enough to require attention. Time continues quietly. Nothing is building, and nothing is ending. Only this slow rhythm of sound, space, and less need for words at all. The sound is still here, but only lightly now. There is less shape and less direction. Words appear slowly, and then rest without needing to continue. Stars remain distant. Light continues moving quietly, and the night sky remains unchanged. Nothing new arrives, and nothing needs to be explained. The words become simpler and then fewer, with long spaces resting between them. Darkness remains wide and steady, and brief moments pass without leaving anything behind. There is no change to notice, and no moment that signals an ending. Only the same quiet presence continuing without effort. There is sound, then space, and then more space. The words no longer need to be heard and can fade naturally into the background. Stars remain where they are, the night remains quiet, and there is nothing left that needs attention. Only stillness continuing and continuing, until listening is no longer necessary.